Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today, Christopher A. Brooks. We're talking about his new book, Tales of Koehler Holler, an African American family in rural Appalachia. By NAOMI. He's laughing because I'm still practicing. Did I, Professor? How did I
You
do?
did. You
I did
did.
it. Okay. Let's see if I can keep that streak going. Um, Co-authored by NAOMI HODGE-MUSE and Christopher A. Brooks. He's a best-selling, award-winning biographer. He's got a great catalog of books, and I'm going to mention them at the end here. I'm going to set this up just in case you're joining us right now. I'm going to tell you about Tales of Koehler Holler. At the core of Tales of Koehler Holler is the family matriarch, Amy Finney, again, who lived from 1850 to 1936, and she was formerly an enslaved woman in Southwest Virginia, which is modern day Henry County now. In 1890, Amy purchased land about 1 mile from the main house in which she had once worked in bondage, thus founding a family legacy that continues to this day and is told in the pages so beautifully of this book. This provides you, the reader, with a rare glimpse of life in Black Appalachia over the last 150 years. Through the narratives, the characters come alive. And at the end of the story, you will appreciate the significance of the land, the importance of the sacrifice, and how Koehler Holler has become the Finney family's legacy. Welcome back, Christopher.
Thank you. Glad to be
I want
here.
to, it's such a, thank you for sharing this story. It's been years in the making, as you said before. Uh, I wanted to mention again, we left the break. You were um, describing and talking about your relationship and how it came to be with NAOMI HODGE-MUSE, your co-writer on the book, and who currently owns the property still, right, in the
Yes,
family.
that's right.
She says about you, what a thrill it was to work with Christopher to bring my family story to the written word. And it is my hope that by telling the experience of my ancestry, readers will have a better appreciation of what it was like for an African American family during those years, and to know we were a family that succeeded despite their circumstances. Christopher, what is this book about ultimately to you, in your opinion?
Oh, um, I would say, for me personally, I have specialized, Jeremiah, in telling that African derived experience. Of course, that's what we do in anthropology, whether it's a biological anthropology or cultural anthropology or linguistic anthropology or archaeological anthropology. We are basically telling the story about humans. And I have specialized or dedicated myself to telling that sometimes often untold story. Now, I've had the opportunity to tell, let's say, to do a biography of Shirley Verrett, but at the same time, there are ones that if I hadn't had that opportunity presented to me, that story might have been lost. And I'll say Joe Evans. Roland Hayes was a well-known name as well. But this one, Tales of Koehler Holler, Naomi HODGE-MUSE, I think that this is a story that deserved to be told, and there are many, many others. But this one came to me, and Naomi and I crossed each other's paths, and I believe I was supposed to do it. So that's how I look at it from a personal standpoint. But ultimately, the story of Koehler Holler is about family surviving, about the African American experience, and what we have come through as a people. And although I grew up in a more urban background, I I was not as familiar with what took place in rural Virginia. For example, African Americans typically only being given education up to the 7th grade, which
Mm,
gave them the opportunity to learn how to read, write, and do arithmetic. And it was felt that they didn't need to go beyond that. And
I
if you
didn't know
went
that.
beyond that, you had to pay for it. So that was part of our history. Well, most people don't know that. It was NAOMI who called that to my attention because several of her grandmother, her aunts, many of them worked as domestics, and all of them, her grandmother, Grandma Dolly, was truly gifted with a photographic memory. And she was the one who preserved many of these family stories and passed them on to NAOMI, who then passed them on to me as we began working on this project.
It must give you chills, or
I
I'm
almost
sure
got them right then.
it must to that this story came to you, and that you're, along with Naomi, you're the storyteller. You're bringing it to life. We all have only so many stories in us, don't we, that we get to tell through our lifetime. And you're a storyteller, and this is one of those stories that you chose, or that chose you. Um, and it's such an important story to tell, and told in such an amazing way over the generations. Um, do what does that feel like to be, you're
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
you only
Thank
have so
you.
many stories, and this is one of them that's
Yeah,
really important.
well, thank you for saying that it chose me because sometimes I used to be afraid of that when something like that would come to me, and it's almost like I was driven to do it. Well, that's how it was with the Koehler Holler. And it took us a while to get it in the way in which it appears as a published volume. And it took several iterations, I am not ashamed to say. But I knew that it was a story worth not only telling, but being disseminated to a much larger audience. So I'm glad that Unsung Voices books gave us this opportunity, and I'm thrilled to do it. But it is when you said there's so many stories, I'll keep doing them until I'm unable to do them. But I do. That is my mission, though. Yes.
Well, Christopher, how did you become a storyteller? Were you as a young man, as a young kid? What drew you to taking words and shaping them, and shaping stories, and doing the research, and really putting out these amazing biographies, autobiographies, stories? Tell us about
I
you.
I love the research, first of all. That really gets me very excited to unravel a puzzle, unravel something else. And if I could use Roland Hayes again as a Roland Hayes wrote a book himself in called Angel Mo and her son Roland Hayes. But as I mean, I read through that and read through that almost as if I had memorized sections. He references a relationship that he has with the Countess, although in his telling, he doesn't say that they had a child together and that they were in a long-term relationship. All of those things. So that was one of those amazing revelations that I enjoyed uncovering and digging into, and finally located his grandsons in Paris. The Bogdanov brothers and Robert Sims and I went to Paris to meet them. And so that kind of thing, it's the research, but when you're writing, you're typically working alone. And so anyone who I talk to about it, or who I reference, or who kind of goes on that journey with me, I feel obliged to mention them in the acknowledgments. And I done so here. My late brother-in-law, Thomas Brown, was one of my very first editors. And he unfortunately passed away before he knew that this work was underway, but he passed away before it got to a point where he could read it. So I've dedicated it to his memory, and Naomi, with Naomi's blessing for that matter. So anyway, there were a number of things that shaped my development as a storyteller: family members, experiences that I had, all of those things. But it's, yeah, the anthropology, of course, gave me a different kind of structure for it as well, because as I said, we tell the story of the human experience.
Mm. And have you always had that curiosity about humanity and humans and that those experiences that we
Yes,
all
I
go through?
have. Absolutely. I have for a long time. And I'm trying I happen to be a certified community health worker as well. And I'm getting ready to take a workshop on hoarder syndrome, meaning, you know, holding
Yeah.
on to things. And I'm trying, and sometimes I do that because I'll say in the back of my mind, maybe I'll have to go to this source, or maybe I'll have to consult this or what have you, but I'm trying to get out of that now.
So are you saying you're a hoarder? Is that what you're
No, I
saying?
don't want
Or
to admit that now, but
you're a collector. Let's just
yeah,
say that way.
collector is a better word.
As an author, do you like, have you ever thought about this? Can you, or maybe you like them equally? Do you like the research part, the getting out there, the anthropology part of it? Do you like that more, or when you have to sit down, or do you like the solitude of being alone with your thoughts and putting it all together?
The two
Um,
go hand in hand, Jeremiah. I have to say, I know, I tell, as I told Naomi and tell others, I never do a book or work on a book that I don't expect to be published. So I treat everything like that. If I work on it and this book took longer for a publisher to come to us, and Unsung Books did, and sorry, Unsung Voices did. And I didn't know who would do it, but I knew that it would happen. So anyway, that's how I do it. And I write books, even if I don't have a publisher at the time. I just go ahead and do the work, and the opportunity to publishing will eventually come, as it did in this case. But I do want to thank my editors, Don Rosso and Amy Rath, because they've done an excellent job in walking Naomi and me through this process.
yeah, it's so important to thank those that have helped you along the way. So we've got to take another quick break here, but we're going out with Shirley Verrett. "A Strange Fruit" is the name of the song, and you wrote a book. Um, I don't have the title in front of me, but I could
It's
find it.
called I
But you could
Never
tell me.
Walked Alone, the
That's it.
autobiography of an American singer.
And do you want to say anything about the song or
It
Shirley before we go to break?
Well, first of all, it was my very first book that was published in 2003, and I consider that one of my. It's Shirley Verrett often said that God put us in each other's paths, and so I came to embrace that in many ways. She was a world class, a legendary artist, and I feel incredibly honored to have gotten the opportunity to tell her story, and we worked incredibly well together. Yes.
Okay, we're going to listen to that right now. My special guest today is Christopher A. Brooks. He's a professor of anthropology at Virginia Commonwealth University, and he's an award-winning best-selling biographer. He's here to talk about his new book, Tales of Koehler Holler, an African-American family in rural Appalachia. Oh, I messed it up again.
No, no, you didn't. You
Did I
did
get
just
it?
fine.
Okay, we'll be right back. Enjoy this beautiful music.